Hello YgoPro Moderant here, welcome to a Banlist prediction video for March-April 2016. We should be expecting the ban list anytime between the next 3 to 7 weeks, but I'm predicting it will be 1 or 2 weeks after the release of the next premium gold set, mainly because E-Telly comes out in that set, and it's very likely that E-Telly will get hit in order to curb Monarch and Kozmo strength. So yeah, also the stated that not all the hits on the adjusted list are all likely to get transmuted onto the next list, so there's a possibility that one of those cards will get a more lenient hit, and I will be predicting that in this video, along with hits for Kozmo, Monarchs and Mermail. So without further ado, let's go into this ban list. We have Plushfire and Damage Juggler banned. This should continue on the list because Perform Mage is just too abusable at this moment in the game. The fact that it can search itself, stop OTKs, and is abusable with spell trap destruction like Luster Pendulum, Master Pendulum, Wavering Eyes, Heavy Storm if it was in the game, Twin Twisters, is too strong. It will allow a lot of rank 4 spam, and the rank 4 spam is very dangerous in the game at the moment, particularly cards like Traptrix Rafelsia and Diamond Dire and Castell. They're easily brought out by this deck. You can make very unbreakable boards by having these cards in your deck. So keeping them banned is the best course of action, mainly and suits Konami's style, because when they hit a deck, they usually hit it overboard, like, for example, Cleafort, where they basically made it very hard to play the deck. So by keeping these banned, we'll discourage players from playing Perform Mage. Then we have Tellarknight Ptolemaeus. The fact that it gives Samurai Infinity access and Pallades and Durandal access in rank 4 decks is something that the game will not prosper from. It's too overpowered. It was released in Cross Souls, so it is definitely time to keep it banned, as it served them well money-wise, and they won't make any further profit off this unless they reprint it. If it's reprinted in Premium Gold, then it may come back to 1, but it's very unlikely since it allows too much strength in Perform Mage and Pals, which they will probably become the best deck if Ptolemaeus actually comes back. And finally, Life Equalizer. Life Equalizer is a card that's currently at 3 but should be banned, mainly because it allows degenerate FTKs and OTKs, in particular the Monarch Magical Explosion FTK, which is probably the most consistent one. It's not done too much, but it's a possibility for the right player to actually play this and win with, and more or less allow the bandwagon to actually come forth. Life Equalizer is a very old card, and the Konami will be getting any real plus from the sales of Life Equalizer if it became meta. So hitting it would stop the consistency of those FTK decks that don't let your opponent play, and we know we want to play the game. We don't want to watch some person cycle through their deck and then use Life Equalizer and win through that. It would also probably stop Magical Explosion FTK once and for all. Even though you could just ban Magical Explosion, there are other cards that can replace it, and Life Equalizer getting hit instead would cut down a lot of those decks. It makes Upstart Goblin very abusable in those kind of FTK decks. Then we have onto the limits cards. We have Perform Pal Skullcrobat Joker. The first of these, this is a hit for Perform Pal and Magicians. Odd Eyes is not consistent enough to be hit, but both of those technically are hittable. The fact that we're going technically into Magician version of Draco-Pals is something that will make Joker more stronger, and yeah, essentially we just need this hit. We just need to keep this hit at 1. I am completely fine with this hit from the adjusted list. I did think it would eventually happen, but I didn't think it would happen so newly because it was such a new card at the point. But it makes sense. Keeping Skullcrobat Joker at 1 will lower the consistency of the deck. Then we have Monkey Board, an instant scale, and Konami doesn't want to give us that yet. In the future, they may give us instant scales, But the fact that you just need to have this card in your hand and have all the rest of them being like rank 4 options for rank 4 spam means that you can make unbreakable balls very easily. And the fact that it's at 1, you can search it out, cycle through the deck very effectively with Joker, Acrobat, Second Donkey, and Self, which is not good at all, because you're giving easy access to like Pot of Greed, Mechanics, and rank 4 spam, which is very powerful. So keeping these two at 1 would keep the power creep of Performapal to a minimum. Then we have Wavering Eyes. Wavering Eyes should be limited because of two things. One is degenerate. It searches out another copy of itself. It is technically an out to pendulums in a mirror match, but it's not a skilled card at any point in the game. If it comes to 1, it's technically a looks like game winner more than anything. But it also searches very effectively, which goes into my second point, that it's like Rota. We could search out any pendulum monster, and Rota could search out more or less any weaker warrior monster. If Rota is at 1, why is Wavering Eyes at 3? Is the argument, because both of those are meta impacting, and both of them should have similar limitations. So hopefully Wavering Eyes to 1 will come, and I absolutely be happy. Even if other cards Performapal wise get hit very hard, I would still be completely fine with Wavering Eyes to 1. I would be overjoyed actually, Wavering Eyes to 1, even if Performapal became completely unplayable, because then every other pendulum deck would be more likely to have more success, because Wavering Eyes is an instant win for any pendulum deck. So yeah, that should be at 1. Then we've got Kozmo hits. We have Kozmo Town and Emergency Teleport. Kozmo Town should be hit because it increases the consistency of Cosmos, and the consistency of Cosmos is not something we want to increase because it's a meta deck. It also allows you to unbrick and even add another copy of itself, which is very powerful, and by cutting it down to 1, it will limit the consistency. It will force them to use like more terraformings and stuff like that to gain this, and if they get the MST, they have to have recyclable options to make this come back into play, essentially. So yeah, by cutting this down to 1, it will decrease consistency of the deck. It is technically the best deck of the format, being the adjusted format, I should say. And yeah, we need to cut that down, cut that strength. And then Emergency Teleport. Because it's abusable by both two meta decks, which are Mermail, not Mermail. They are both abusable by Kozmo and Monarchs. Emergency Teleport should be a hit, so it can decrease their consistency, stop OTK plays, and hopefully allow a lot more inconsistent versions of the deck, allowing more other decks to become more meta. So yeah, E-Tele to 1 would be best. Although it does hit a lot of fun decks, it stops the meta decks, which is more important at the moment. Fun decks can play without Emergency Teleport. They don't really need Emergency Teleport to survive. This just increases the speed of those two meta decks, which will be overcoming more or less any fun deck that runs Emergency Teleport, including Super Quantums. But Super Quantums itself doesn't need a hit. It's only the Emergency Teleport. Then we also have the fact that it's getting reprinted in next month in Premium Gold, and for example, Banlist Emptiness was reprinted in a mass sense, and that was hit 2 weeks after, so it's very likely that Emergency Teleport will get the hit 2 weeks after, just to kind of set on trends. When some card gets abusable, it gets reprinted and then gets hit, because they want to make their money off that card first and then stop it from taking control of the game. It's also being seen as teched in decks like Performapal, Draco-Slayer to bring out the Cheria Beast, which is not so fun to play against. So hitting that will also stop Pepe to abusing this card, but particularly with Ghost Ogre being a very strong hand trap that you can bring out very easily with this. And finally, for the limited cards, we have Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion should be hit over Norden because Norden requires the polymerization to become broken. It requires the other entities to become broken. And having Instant Fusion to 1 will both hit former HAL Draco Slayer and Mermail. And hopefully that will be good because it will stop OTK. It will slow down OTKs of Mermails, essentially, because they can abuse it with Duel very effectively and Sea Dragoons. And the fact that you can instantly make a rank 4 from this, like with Felsia or Eoswarm Nightmare if you have the other material on the board already, makes it too abusable, and hitting it to 1 would be more profitable. And they're unlikely to, they may reprint it actually in Premium Gold, and if they do, this is more likely to be hit than anything, except for Emoji Teleport. Finally, onto the cards that should be semi-limited. The first is Luster Pendulum. Luster Pendulum really didn't need to be hit on that ban list. They went a bit overboard on the adjusted list, essentially, so unhitting Luster Pendulum to the max of 2 would be increasing their consistency somewhat, giving them a throwback based on if they get hits on Wavering Eyes and Instant Fusion. But it wouldn't make them tier 0, and essentially this would be most profitable. So yeah, having Luster Pendulum at 2 would be very good indeed. It would also allow us to have more outs to Kozmo, which would manage the Kozmo situation. Then finally, for the semi-limited cards, Solemn Strike. Solemn Strike is puzzling because I thought this was going to get really abused straight away. However, it never did until the Banlist hit. Now you can technically see a lot of decks running Solemn Strike at max, even over Solemn Warning at times, which I think is a bit iffy on that, because I like Solemn Warning because it outs Mermails. But Solemn Strike, very abusable at the moment, and keeping it at 3 will not be prosperous for the game. It will just mean that you see Solemn after Solemn after Solemn after Solemn, and that will probably define which decks win eventually if we go into a more slower format. Right now we're slow enough for this to be main decked, but if we go even slower, this will become an extremely annoying card to have to deal with. Although I'm gonna be sad if it does get hit, because I've got 3 of them now, so I like having 3, but it's more likely to happen. Then we have the cards that should be unhit on the list. And the first of these is Dark Magician of Chaos. It's gone errata in the Yugi's legendary decks, I believe it was. And now it doesn't have any reason to be on the hit list. It should come back to 1 because they're always incremental on their unbannings. So bringing this back to 1 would essentially allow this card to be playable, but nothing to define the meta. The best decks that I can think of that could play this would be Dark Magician decks in the future, because you can summon it out with the Exceed monster, Infernoid because you can add Reasoning back to the hand and special summon it from your deck, and also Kozmo because they can also Reasoning and add Kozmo Town back to the hand if they need to, say if it was hit on the list. So you'll probably see it in 1 or 2 meta decks, but it won't be something that defines the meta. Then we have Cyberstein. Cyberstein is very much a powerful card, but it is extremely costly. You have to put in 5,000 life points to summon a fusion monster from your fusion deck, which is overpowered in the fact that, which is really high, I should say, not overpowered. It's a very high cost, and that can be the possibility of game, essentially, because you can easily negate it with Solemn Strike and Solemn Warning in the game right now. There's a lot of Veiler rampancy, Ghost Ogre rampancy, a lot of things you can do to out Cyberstein at the moment. So I don't think you would see much play. The only deck that can really use this would be Infernoid, because they can special summon the attack from the deck. It would technically be more successful since most people go for 1 or 4 in the case of an Infernoid player. So essentially, you could get this out free, pay 5 hours of life points to bring out that Chili Stereo. That's the best play you could probably do within Cyberstein or Blue Eyes Ultimate Tracker if you're turn 2. But apart from that, Cyberstein won't make any meta impact. Then we have Happy's Feather Duster to 1. Happy's Feather Duster should come back to 1 because we have now a load of solemns that we need to clear. If we clear those solemns, we're all okay. This is also a hit to pendulums because pendulums are still doing a lot of stuff in this format, and getting the Happy's Feather Duster will allow people to overcome them a little bit more easily. It'll also allow Monarchs to be hit as well because who likes to go against their Dominion, right? So Happy Feather Duster 1 would be very good to come back to 1. And I hope it does come back on this list. If it gets reprinted in Premium Gold, it's extremely likely to come back because they'll get a lot of profit from this. Like Regeki coming back, they'll get a lot of profit from that last Premium Gold set. And then Book of Moon to 2. Book of Moon is a bit of a weird one. The fact that it's a -1 just to set a card isn't really playable. A lot of people do play this at times, depending on the format, but right now it's really not used. It's more of a tech. So coming back to 2 would not really define the meta in the fact that we have all Book of Moons rampant everywhere. They probably still won't be used as effectively, mainly just because it's -1 than anything. And then finally, Monster Kids 2 or 3, just to increase Inferno's strength, because Inferno should really be a bit more meta than it is. It technically keeps in track Pepe and Monarchs because they can easily board wipe, and that's something good. If you want to hit those 2 decks, make another deck slightly more strong, and Monster Kids 2 or 3 would be the best way to do it. Plus it would increase the sales of Left Arm Offering when it comes out in April. So very good indeed. And finally, Thousand Eye Restrict should come back to 1 because Thousand Eye Restrict really doesn't deserve to be on this balance anymore. It is not something that will make any meta impact. Who would run this over Norden in their deck? I would never do this because I'd rather run a 101 over it because I can easily bring that out and it has more protection. It's not dead at the end phase and it can easily be veiled. So Thousand Eye Restrict really wouldn't do any meta impact. Out of all of the cards that I just said, Thousand Eye Restrict is the least meta impacting. And now I'll just talk about a couple of cards that are currently forbidden or limited that won't likely come off the list. The first of this is Excite on Night. Excite on Night is good and bad. It's a good way of fun decks overcoming meta decks. However, it's also a good way of meta decks to overcome fun decks that have actually overextended. I've got an actual example of this. The fact that I was going against an alien player last weekend, and he made an amazing board, the best I've seen with aliens, with 2 Golgars, I think an Overlord, 2 of his Codays, and I think 1 face down. And yeah, if I had Excite on Night at 1, next turn I could have just completely obliterated it and completely won the game through it. Whereas I just went Cyber Dragon Infinity with False Tricks instead. But I could have done Revelation Bangle as well. But also Excite on Night would hurt fun decks as well as give them a plus. So I don't think it's worth coming back on the ban list, coming off the ban list at this point in time, particularly with all the Pepe hits we already have. The second is Wind Up Carrier Zenmaity. Wind Up Carrier Zenmaity won't come off the list because wind-ups would be too good to actually be released back into the game. There's no profit that Konami can get from wind-ups, so bringing it back would probably hinder their sales of Shiny Victories. Excuse me. Then we have Elemental Hero Stratos, same reasoning. I'm not going to get any plus from Heroes unless they reprint it in the next Premium Gold. And if they do reprint it, it would likely go to 1 then. But in any other case, it's very unlikely that Stratos will come back to 1. And I'll probably get a lot of people saying, oh, you should have said Stratos should come back to 1 and give a lot of reasons. But in my mind, heroes are too strong already. Even though they don't have Cyber Infinity access, they can still do Dark Law and Rafelsia turn 1, which is very powerful and should be curbed. So Stratos keeping at 1 would be best. Unless Shadow Mist went to 1 and then we could have Stratos at 1. I'd be completely fine with that then. But until that point, Stratos, I don't think it will come back unbanned. Same for Heavy Storm. Heavy Storm and Harvey Feather Duster technically same things. Technically Harvey Feather Duster is better since it doesn't board wipe your own, but since there's so many abusable cards like Liberating Guiding Ariadne and Plushfire when it was around, and there will be a lot more cards that are going to be futurely plussing from being destroyed eventually, because Konami always does some weird things. Heavy Storm will become too abusable and shouldn't come back, whereas Happy Feather Duster doesn't really plus you anything, it just board wipes instead. And that's not going to cause FTKs everywhere. You're not likely to see Regeki Happy Feather Duster combo to board wipe, and even then, destruction of cards isn't 100% what you want in the game, because it's not going to do as much as you'd think. Then we have, finally, Insector Hornets. As much as I'd be fine with Insectors coming back to their more stronger standpoint to actually compete against the meta, I don't think Insector Hornet or Insector Ladybug for that, I think it's Ladybug, isn't it? Yeah. Ladybug to 1 would not really be a possibility, mainly because like Wind Up Zen Mighty, it would probably hinder the profits of Konami when they release Shining Victories, because this will be a meta viable deck. And then onto cards that I'm in 2 minds about. First is Pendulum Sorcerer. Pendulum Sorcerer does give you an extra 2+, increasing consistency of Perform Pals. However, it requires to be special summoned. Some have to have specific engines for this, like Summon the Monk to discard spell, special summon it, Sorcerer, and then destroy it itself, and Monk to add 2 Perform Pals. But that pack has to be special summoned. You can dead draw it if you don't have the right scales. And yeah, Pendulum Sorcerer can be sometimes bad compared to how it can usually be seen, because it can instantly give you an S+2. But I don't think it really requires to be hit on the list, since there is a starter deck coming out soon for Perform Pal, and I think they would want to increase the sales. They're not going to have that much sales anyway from this set. They'll probably have more sales if they keep Pendulum Sorcerer viable. Second is Dominion. I think it's a degenerate card. The fact that you can stop your opponent's special summon from the extra deck is too overpowered. However, the other things are good for Monarchs because it gives you more consistency, more fodder for pantheism, and gets your monsters out very easily, a lot more easily, I should say. And it can be overcome with MST. There's not any protection. So I'm just in 2 minds. I hate the degeneracy of it, but with it not being 100% consistent in the actual form, if Emergency Teleport was hit, then I'm completely fine with it being at 3 for now. Then there's Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment I'm technically fine with coming back to 1 because it's paying half your life points. On the other hand, it is negating more or less anything in the game. And that, well, negates quite a lot of things in the game. It doesn't negate monster effects, apparently. From actually reading this. So it wouldn't stop everything. Monster effects are really rampant in the game, so you really would rather have this negate monster effects. So Solemn Strike technically is a little bit better than Solemn Judgment. I think it'll be more played than Solemn Judgment. And then finally, Elder Entity Norden. The other entities have not been released, and therefore it will not make the card too broken. If Instant Fusion goes to 1, again, it will not make it broken. Hitting Norden without super polymerization or the entities rampant in the game is not really justifiable, whereas Instant Fusion, giving easy access to rank 4s and allowing Mermails to abuse it, is more justifiable. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this Banlist prediction video. It's probably going on for quite a lot of time, 25 minutes. So yeah, that's that is a bit of a longer video, but not too long. So tell me what you think in the comments below. If you think this list was good or bad. I've thought about this quite a long time. A lot of my previous hits has stayed on this list. There's a few new ones. There's a few ones I've taken off completely. So yeah, I thought all these through. The most unlikely ones are probably the Monster Gate and Harpy's Feather Duster and probably Wavering Eyes. All the rest are all justifiable for hits, and I'd like to know what you guys think. So tell me below in the comments. Please like, subscribe if you enjoyed this and want to see further content. Madarant signing out.